Welcome back, gentlemen. Good to be sitting and chatting with you. We got a nice couple of topics of things that have been going on, things that just came out yesterday that we're going to talk about with Zahid going to Cowboy RTC. The All-Star Classic will hit the back and forth that's been going on with recruiting committed wrestlers and the trash talk between Nick Stemmet and AJ Ferrari that's been going on. So, first things first is Zahid to Cowboy RTC. It really does prove that David Taylor's words in his initial presser, where he said that the RTC was going to be basically the precedent. And that's where he was really going to put a lot of his time. Obviously, he's putting in a lot of time in recruiting wrestlers for the team, but also putting in a lot of time for the RTC. And he goes out and first thing he does is sign Dayton Fix, make sure Dayton is staying, goes and gets RBY after the Olympics, and now just last night, Zahid to Cowboy RTC. When I initially got the text and about the news that was going to be coming, and talked to Earl, and Earl was able to get the article up. I was at the gym when I got a text, but it was it was shocking. But then you're like, you know what? It makes sense for Zahid to go there because he's only been at Arizona State training since he left high school. And he probably needs a change of scenery. And he probably needs a guy like David, who's same size, lengthy guy, knows exactly Zahid's style. And it's the same thing of Fix and Gilman working together where they've prepared for each other. And, Gilman has said in an interview about Fix, I want to teach him about some of the areas that I felt I could expose in his wrestling. It's got to be the same sort of ordeal when it comes to Zahid heading to Cowboy RTC. So I think it'll be a really good change of pace for him. It's obviously going to be a complete change of scenery. I mean, he's only been in California where he's from, and now in Arizona, and now Oklahoma. And Stillwater is very different from Tempe. So good change of pace for sure, I think, and good coaching staff around him. What did you guys make of the move, and how do you see this panning out with Zahid now being in the room with a guy like David Taylor who can truly dedicate the time to a guy like that who has the same size and length as him?
It makes sense for everybody. There's not anything about this that's bad. I mean, it's like you
Mm-hmm.
said, he's going to have a great training partner in David Taylor, who, from all accounts, has no real interest in competition after the World Championships here. So it's not like it's a guy who's going to be getting in his way for future world teams. Um, it's a guy who, I mean, we don't know. I know I've heard rumors that Brooks might be going up to 97 at some point.
He is. He
Um,
said he is going to.
yep. But if he does run into him again, right, or if he gets bigger or whatever, at least there's somebody who knows more about Brooks. So that could be helpful potentially if that matchup happens again. Um, and then again, you've got all the Oklahoma State guys in that room too. So you've got additional strong, good wrestling bodies to get your hands on anyway, just to for the conditioning standpoint and continuing to fight. And it's only going to help those guys too, right? You don't think Dustin Plott's going to get better from wrestling Zahid Valencia, all the time. So, um,
And then Hendrickson being in the line. I mean, he's a heavyweight, but that's going to help tremendously.
absolutely, so it makes all the sense in the world for everybody.
I think when we heard that, Gator Wrestling Club was closing down, um, or sorry, Sunkiss, not Gator. I'm
Hmm.
thinking way back here.
Yeah, right.
When
Well, I
we
mean,
heard,
Gator was when Oklahoma State had their
yeah,
prominent years too. So I can see
yeah.
why
Yeah.
you make that correlation.
But we heard when Art was shutting down Sunkiss, we knew these guys were going to go somewhere. So it's interesting to see kind of where everybody shifted. I think it's a great move for him. I mean, it also shows, you know, continues to show how much money they're willing to throw down for this program. And that's, you know, we'll hit on some of that the aspect of funding later on, but it's there's no shortage of investment in this program right now. And they're willing to go out and get whoever.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everyone there. And just to add on to that, how many times have you seen a wrestler, Gilman, for example, has some success, at one spot and then move, he moved to Nittany Line, saw some more some more success. I can't talk right now. It happens all the time. And I think Valencia is a good example of that, where, a fresh scenery, some new workout partners, just, something different mindset, different mentality. And, I think it'll be a good thing for him, especially like you guys said, David Taylor, multiple time world champ, Olympic champ, having him in your corner and as your training partner every day. How can you not get better? Right.
Yeah, and I mean the wild thing about it is you if you know if you're Lee Pritz and you're Zeke, you hope that the bleeding was going to stop with losing your top dogs in your lineup, and now you're losing your top dog in your RTC. That's a hard hit. Because for the longest, Zahid was, the cash cow around there. He's the guy that you're recruiting around. He's the guy that you're pointing to and you're saying, see, he was in the NCAA finals, right? Like he's won a national title. He was successful here. You can do it here. I mean, obviously now you're going to point to Richie Figueroa and he's going to be your guy, but it's a lot different because Zahid was a perennial in the later rounds of the NCAA tournament, where Richie Figueroa, it's yet to be seen if he has sustainable competition or at least sustainable success in at 125 and potentially at 133 if he moves up, I think in like a year or so, right? So he's got to be the guy that you can recruit off of, but it's really hard to recruit off of a 125 because he isn't going to be able to go with a 65 pounder. He's not going to be able to go with anyone 141 and up, right? Or 149 and up. So he's very, your small guys, you'll definitely be able to get, but like as we see and as we look at our Olympic team and our world teams, a lot of our biggest assets and most success has come in a very concentrated area of the lineup. We've been very consistent at 74, 79, 86, 92, 97. Those are the guys that where we're the most competitive. And you have to think that those are the guys that a lot of these RTCs are going to want to get because of how much success we have there and because of the guys they can learn from, like Jordan Burroughs, like Kyle Dake. So, Zahid is definitely, and I feel like that next tier of guys that we now have coming out of college, I feel that it is the Aaron Brooks, it's the Carter Sirachis, it's the Zahids, it's the Trent Hidleys. It's that portion of things where we're really going to start to see a tremendous jump where Kyle Snyder has been the last couple of years. It's going to be more of the heavier end guys. So I think Zahid is going to be great in that regard. Him working with David Taylor is going to be tremendous. And I also think, Worlds is coming up. We're a week away at this point, but if Zahid has been, and I don't know this, maybe he has been, maybe he's been training with David. Maybe he's been helping David get ready for Worlds. So that could also have been a big selling point of Zahid saying, yeah, I need to be in Oklahoma State. I need to be in Stillwater to get better and work with a guy like this. So ultimately, I think it's a good move as well. I think that they will have a lot more success with recruiting, with having guys like RBY as well as Zahid in the room as well. And obviously Fix, who is a lifelong Cowboy. But, within that coaching staff, they're going to be master recruiters. And Zahid is certainly going to help bring in those guys that are in the heavier weight classes. So this is going to be a great recruiting tool moving forward. And I think it's going to be awesome, honestly.
Do you think Zahid stays repping the US, or you think he takes a shot with repping Mexico like his brother did? You got RBY in Stillwater representing Mexico. I don't know if Valencia might go that route just to get a spot on a world team and try from there. I think it's weird. Maybe not weird, but his brother did it. So, why doesn't he go that route?
That would be.
I mean,
I don't want to
see
start
the
rumors.
logic.
I'm just asking.
No, I mean, I see the logic behind it, though.
We've been talking about that on Blood Round for a couple years now. It's like the dude's clearly a world-class guy. He just needs, chances to keep, racking up medals and getting those opportunities. Um, I had a funny thought, like, how quickly did David Taylor reach out to him, do you think? Do you think he was like whispering it to him when he was pinning him in a cradle? Like, hey, what are you doing this spring, buddy? Just come to the
I
RTC.
think
I'll show you
I
how I
think
did this.
those conversations probably happen in Nebraska. I
Yeah.
would not be surprised if
Yeah.
they did, honestly. That's
Mhm.
probably where everything started is in Nebraska. And I mean, I think that him and Anthony are in two very different positions where Anthony was, excuse me, in a very loaded part of our lineup where you, like I said, he's at what, he was at 79, I believe. 79, 74. That's tough to crack.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? That's
There's a
especially at
little bit
that
of talent
time.
there.
I think
Especially at that time.
Yeah.
he was up at 86 for the Olympics this last go at it. So
Yeah, because I think he was like a 79. He's grown into a
I think
79,
you're
and
right. Yeah.
going down to 74 probably wasn't, an easy task. But like I think Zahid is poised to make a team, especially if he's at 92 next year and Brooks is at 97. Brooks has to compete with Snyder. Zahid has to compete with Starachi. And not to say that that's not a formidable opponent, but like that's a very different matchup than having to go up against Kyle Snyder,
mhm.
And so I can see Zahid saying the guy that was at 92, 86. I mean, he was at 86 for the Olympics too. So he might even still stay at 86
Yeah.
if that's the case. So yeah, I mean, and I was wrong. So Aaron Brooks will be going to 92, not 97. I think 97 is where he ends up for the Olympic year,
Yeah.
but he'll be at 92. So maybe, maybe Zahid stays at 86 with Taylor vacating that and Starachi being the other guy that's there at 86. It's probably more of a feasible thing where you truly look at it, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
um
They're both so lanky, but they're not. There's not a lot of thickness there. They're
yeah,
super
he's
thin.
dense. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be a shift. It's going to be probably just as weird seeing Zahid in orange as it was to see David Taylor in orange. But no, I think it's a great move, and I think, like I said, with Brooks moving up to 92, and Zahid most likely staying at 86, that could be the next tandem. And he'll obviously, like I said, have to beat Srirachi, but our world team next year could end up being what Kyle Dake at 79. I don't see him staying at 74 again. Um, Zahid at 86, and then Brooks at 92 and Snyder at 97. And who knows, as much as Gable's been posting, maybe he comes back too. But you
I'm
don't
I'm not
He's a
holding my breath
tease.
for
I
him.
was gonna say you
He
don't
needs
hold
to,
your breath on
All
that,
right.
but
needs to figure out what the
and
hell he's
I
doing.
know nothing, honestly. That's just me saying he's been posting more about wrestling than he has about anything else as of late. So wishful thinking would be, hey, maybe we get our Olympic champ back in the lineup. Not to say that things have been terrible. We've been perennial medalists at 125, but Gable's been the only one that's broken through.
Mhm.
So, you know, but no, we'll see what happens, and Taylor is not just recruiting on the RTC level, he's also recruiting on the college level, and he flips
Re-recruiting even.
re-recruiting. He flips Sergio Vega, and I think there's obviously two schools of thought when it comes to this situation, because Vega had commit to Cornell, and this had been prior to David Taylor and his staff getting there. So I can see it from that lens of saying, well, we didn't have a shot at this kid. He didn't know who the coach was going to be when he commit. He had no idea what this program was. So approaching him with what this program is now, why not? And I, as much as I have an issue with, like, I have more of an issue of a kid committing early than I do with a kid changing his mind because, again, he's a kid. And as somebody who changed their major 3 times in college, I can tell you we don't know a damn thing that we're doing when we're teenagers.
Nope.
So, like, you want to go where the best situation is for you. And you hadn't signed on a dotted line yet. So, why not entertain maybe a better situation? Coaches do it all the time. Coaches are like, well, I'm here. I mean, take Rob Cole, for instance. Rob Cole was at Cornell, and in the last decade, he's been at what, 2 other places since then,
Yep.
right? So, like, he was at Stanford, and then he was only at Stanford for a couple of years, and now he's at his alma mater. So, if coaches who are signing contracts can be like, well, better situation over here, why not? Why not wrestlers? Why not? So I'm not mad at the kid for taking advantage of a new opportunity that arose, despite the fact that he had already commit to Cornell. And for me, and I don't just live in the wrestling bubble like a lot of the people do. Taylor was right in his interview with Piles. It is the Wild West when it comes to recruiting. It just is, and it always has been.
Right.
Always has been. And it's
100%.
not anything new. It really isn't anything new. So, and the thing that sparked all this was Yanni tweeting about it, and his initial tweet was didn't realize how hard college coaches go after athletes that are already committed. I don't like that at all. My only issue with that is that the next tweet he's quote tweeting Minio and saying, you don't know the story. The coach was calling me nonstop to the point where I had to block his number. So you did. I mean, Yanni, I love you, but you did realize how hard coaches are going after wrestlers. And Yanni, you were the #1 guy coming out of high school. I believe at that point, Willie had ranked Yanni #1 and Spencer Lee at #2 when they were coming out of college. So if there was a guy going that hard after you, you can only imagine what it's like now that recruiting is insane. And it is a bigger business than it ever was. When
And
you
now
guys
there's
saw these
NIL.
tweets, exactly, that's what I'm saying. When you guys saw these tweets, what were your thoughts about, I mean, what are your thoughts in general about coaches continuing to call kids that are verbally committed to a school? And what did you think of Yanni's tweets?
I think it's sketchy. I don't like it. Um, I think my issue, and I think Scott Green kind of hit it on the head, is that it's a very different situation to continue to pursue a committed athlete who says they're committed than it is for, a student athlete to step back and say, I'm going to reevaluate this and then field calls. I think that's a very, very different feeling. Um, and, and I don't blame any of the kids for changing things. And, we did a lot of impetuous shit when we were that age. It's what you do. That's how you learn. But to me, a commitment needs to mean something. And if you're committed to something, you're committed to it. And if you're not, then you need to step back and say that and accept that, and then reevaluate. I don't like people going on additional visits after they said they're committed somewhere. I don't like coaches chasing people after they say they're committed. Like it should mean something. And I understand. I guess I understand David's point of, well, I wasn't there. Well, that can be an argument for a lot of people. That's what the transfer portal's for, right? Things change. You can always transfer if you like your option at another school better as well. So, I mean, I can see both sides of it. I think a commitment needs to mean something. And when it's just continually chasing somebody who's committed somewhere, I think it cheapens that.
I mean, we found out the transfer portal isn't really the transfer portal this year
No,
too. So
it's just,
It's imaginary.
Well, I think the issue for me is like it's more of a nomenclature thing, right? He didn't sign anything.
yeah. Well,
Committed,
that
like
becomes an NCAA issue of, when do you sign the NLI? And now that, from my understanding, that may go away as well. So
it's already gone.
Well, fucking A. So
Yeah,
now
it's
what?
out. Yeah, it's gone. I mean, the contracts are now going to be your financial aid package and all that other stuff. So instead of signing your national letter of intent and then signing your financial aid package and signing this, signing that, it's just like, okay, here's everything, sign it once. That's what it
So
really is.
will
So
that speed up the process instead of having these arbitrary dates?
I think that they will continue to have the dates because there is sponsorship and big business behind a kid being on ESPN signing his NLI. It's a show, it's a fanfare, it's
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
all of it, right? Like you the thing about it is when these decisions are made, you have to remember that the sport we cover is never part of the conversation. It's
No.
it's the afterthought. It's not the conversation. It's what kind of steam are we getting with football? What kind of steam are we getting with basketball? The number one baseball recruit is potentially either going to go to college or is going to go to the pros and be in, the farm system, right? So when you look at it, it's always a conversation about football and basketball essentially, because those are the two sports where you can't skip college in order to go to the pros. So that's where those conversations are. But yeah, and NLI is now gone. They've gotten rid of it. I think the next was the 2025 class will probably be the first class. I think or maybe the 2026. I think it might take effect for them. I'm not sure, so don't quote me on that. But yeah, it is gone by the wayside, which I think is honestly a smart idea. But I think those dates stay in place of this is a recruiting period, this is a dead period, this is this is that, because they're also kind of built in for coaches to have vacations is really what it is. Because coaches were like, I can't keep recruiting. I need to have a
Mhm.
break. I need something. So they're like, okay, we'll make it so that it is mandatory for coaches to take off 2 weeks so that they can see their families. Here you go, you have visitation with your family and then your hours for the rest of the year, right? But
Mhm.
no, Planch, you were saying something. What were your thoughts on the recruiting after recruitment?
Well, the other thing I think is funny too, the national letter of intent, right? I intend to not eat a giant bowl of ice cream, but I did it, like there's, again, nomenclature is kind of the issue with me as far as what we're calling things and if it's not committed, he's not committed. But like you said earlier, Holmes, like it's not like this doesn't happen or and hasn't been happening for years. Like I made the joke back in NCAA 2004, you could recruit already recruited guys. You just had to, put whatever recruiting credits towards it, right? Um, so it's been happening in all the different sports all the time. Kids change their mind. Situations change. Maybe they, obviously in this case there was a different coaching staff and situation at Oklahoma State. Um, it's going to happen. It's going to continue to happen. I don't know what we're not going to solve it here.
Yeah.
Well, we
Austin,
might.
It'd be a
Not with
long
that
episode.
attitude.
Yeah, right.
yeah.
Good point.
Austin, is it true that a good bit, I think I saw somebody say that like a couple of Cornell's commits had been committed to other schools before too? You would probably know that more than anyone. Is that true?
I'd have to do some research off the top of my head.
Mhm.
I'm not sure. Um, but I know like in this case, it's like kind of like you said, we don't know the whole story.
Mhm.
Vega he's obviously a well-known recruit, top 50 pound for pound, and then wins a Super 32, and then all of a sudden he flips to Oklahoma State. Like, was there a conversation before that, or did Oklahoma State just kind of swoop in like, oh, he won Super 32, he's good. Let's just give him a call and offer him this NIL money that he can't refuse. And not that that makes it right or wrong. It just kind of like what Robbie's point, it kind of makes, a little shadiness on the coach's end if that is what happened. But if there was talks beforehand and Vega was, talking to Cornell like, hey, I'm reconsidering things and I'm looking at other places, okay, that's fine. But or
That's
and
that's a
or if
really hard thing to do to ask
it,
a
it
kid to
is.
do.
Yeah,
That's a
it
really
is.
high
Yeah,
level of
yes and
maturity.
no, though. I mean, I think it lies where your expectations are. And if you take it from a different lens, right? Three of us here are married, right? I assume at some point we were all engaged. So we intended to get married.
Yes.
It was the national
What
letter
would
of
have
engagement.
would
NLE.
would have been okay if I was pursuing someone else in that time in between the engagement and the marriage? Like
Well,
just because
according
I
to you,
hadn't
as long as
signed,
you explain that to your wife first, then it's
if
fine.
I opened my recruitment, right? But I think that's a conversation. Some people do that. Like you understand that during the process. Okay, maybe marriage isn't right for me. So let's take a step back. But you don't continue to pursue other people during your engagement. So it's the same kind of thought process, right? If you're either committed to something or you're not. And if you don't feel like you should be committed to it, then you reevaluate that. But you need to be open about that because you know how many people are reliant on this. You're the team you're committed to is setting aside the scholarship for you and allowing money now, figuring out roster caps and all that. There's a lot of pieces that go into it. So I think if you're committed, you're committed. And if you're not, you need to be upfront about that with the coaches because that changes what they're going to do as well.
Maybe they were on a break, you know?
We were on a break.
Nice Friends reference. I like that one.
Thanks. Yeah. As long as it's 30 years old, I'll reference it here.
Yeah,
There you go.
and like along those lines, Robbie, I see people on X, Twitter, forums. It's like, well, it was just a commitment. It's not in writing, but also like a commitment. It is something because everyone makes a verbal commitment, after they do their visits. This wasn't an eighth grader or a freshman committing because that's his favorite school growing up. He took his visit for at least what I know, took a bunch of official visits and decided on Cornell. And then Oklahoma State swooped in. Again, David Taylor is new as a head coach, so I get that he didn't have that chance, but what happened behind the scenes, I'm not sure. I don't know if we'll ever know, but yeah, I'm still on the fence about it.
Yeah, I
I
was
didn't get a
having
chance to pursue Keira Knightley, but that didn't change anything, right?
I was having a
Just because it's not an option.
conversation. I was having a conversation about I don't know if you guys saw the UNLV quarterback who played in 4 games and then said he was going to redshirt because of a verbal agreement that he was going to be paid $100,000 part of his NIL, right? Which if you look at NIL in college, that's like, yeah, here's $5, kid. You know what I mean? So it's not a lot of money when you're looking at NIL deals. Actually, I mean,
Which is insane.
For quarterbacks, I should say, for quarterbacks, because
In Vegas, he could lose that in one night too.
Exactly. But
Been
like
there.
for quarterbacks, that's not a lot of money. But when you look at the grand scheme of NIL, they're not making a ton. We know about the top 1%, right? That's what we know about. The tackle, the guard, the second string wide receiver, they're not making anything. So, the national average for NIL deals, it's a hell of a lot lower than what people think. We just know that the University of Texas here in Austin has a deal with the Lamborghini dealer. So all these guys get Lambos. That's not a lie. It's the absolute truth. They get Lambos depending on who they are. But like that's what I
a
equate it
practical
to.
vehicle for a college commute.
Very
Yeah.
practical. Hey, listen, as long as they're not giving them to the Georgia players, I'm good. We see what they do behind the wheel. But no, I
Easy
mean,
enough for
We're going to talk
others.
about AJ Ferrari in a minute, right?
we're gonna get there in just a
Yeah.
second. But when you think about it, that was a verbal commitment to that UNLV quarterback, and it wasn't upheld. So he was like, "See ya, I'm out of here." Right? I played in the allotted games that I'm allowed to play in, and still redshirt, and I'm gonna go now because you guys didn't hold up your end of the deal. I feel like it's the same thing in a sense where a kid is like, "Okay, I'm gonna commit to this." Oh, I'm not going to get as good of a deal now. All right, I'm out of here. It's the same thing, right? Where he was the one that was promising to do something and he didn't hold up his end, which I think is shitty. But he's also a teenager, right? He's also a kid. And I think winning Super 32 put him on the radar of David Taylor. Maybe he was on the radar before then. We don't know. But I think that really probably solidified that they needed to push a little bit harder. But if anybody thinks that every single kid for the last 100 years was done being recruited before they signed their national letter of intent when it was in effect, you're crazy. As Yanni said, he literally had to block this coach's number. So if that's the extreme that you have to go to, to stop a coach from calling you, then it's been going on for longer than this one situation.
I
And
think it's an interesting thing to examine which coaches are the ones that are doing this, because having
all of
that
them
conversation
probably
with,
though.
I don't think it is all of them. I think it's a large percentage, but I think there's some that would agree that commitment means commitment unless they say they're not. And I mean, I know there's a couple coaches who have said that to me, that they're not going to pursue somebody who says they're committed somewhere. Um, so it's interesting to see what the line of thinking is between different coaching staffs with that as well.
Well, and there's always going to be varying degrees of this too, right? There might be situations where someone who's not even on staff with the program is reaching out to a kid, getting them to try and flip to a different institution, right? We all know that
Mhm.
happens.
Happens a
So,
hell of a lot more now.
yeah, which
especially
is
especially with all the money involved.
so weird. I can't imagine being a high school kid and having someone not directly affiliated with a program trying to throw
Hey,
money at
I
you
own a
to
car
change your
dealership
mind. Yeah.
in the town you want to go to college in.
That you don't actually want to go to college in, but you might
But
now.
you will.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought it was I think it was kind of funny, Coach Cole getting in on Yanni's tweet, kind of putting, Kale on blast a little bit. And, let's be honest, there's rumors of Cole kind of doing the same shenanigans that he's
Cole doing Cole things.
accusing Kale of, so it's like you said, a lot of them do it. How many? We don't know, and how
But I
aggressive
think
are
the
they,
difference too, there's Rob's upfront about that.
Yeah.
He's not trying to hide
Mhm.
that.
Hmm.
Like that's the other kind of line of thinking. Is it happening in the open, or is it you're being shady and still continuing to call people on the sly and trying to get them to flip? So it's just kind of an interesting dilemma all around.
I mean, it's weird though too, because then you'll have guys who are literally already at an institution wrestling for the school and, being reached out to jump in the portal real quick. And
That
so,
doesn't happen. No.
no, yeah. So,
Allegedly.
if this happens now or in a year, right? Like it's still going to happen. Like we can talk about guys not recruiting guys who were already committed, but guys are being recruited directly off of rosters. So
Your coaches have to always be recruiting now,
their own
right?
guys.
Like it used to be always be closing, right? Now it's always be recruiting,
Mhm.
right? So it is very different in this day and age, because the minute a guy's not happy, he's like, well, I can go over here. They're offering me this, which it is taking the essence of sports away for sure. Because
Especially in a sport that prides itself on the things
having
we
that
pride
that
ourselves on,
that
and
moral
sticking,
authority,
yep,
yeah.
and sticking through things that are difficult, and all those fun things that we preach the value of the sport.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think overall I don't have an issue with it. However, I think that there needs to be transparency in the process. Not Bo Bassett type of transparency, which
Hmm.
is still not really transparent, but there
No,
needs
he's
to
going
be
to UPJ. We've already been over this. We've
there needs to
established
be
this.
some transparency, right? Like was there a conversation that Vega had with the Cornell coaches where he said, I'm going to open up, my recruitment a little bit. I'm going to look at some other offers, to make sure I'm making the right decision. And if that happened, then all respect to the kid for doing that.
Absolutely.
But one thing we all also have to remember is we're on these public forums, right? Like this is getting posted on YouTube. Everyone will be able to watch it. Everyone can comment, like it, whatever they want to do.
Millions of people, probably, hopefully.
Millions and millions of
Millions, yeah.
people,
Billions
right?
even.
The kid may have done that discreetly. So if
Absolutely.
he opened up his recruitment, I mean, I know we're in a day and age where everybody is so blessed and humbled to receive an offer, or I'm officially, decommitting from here and reopening my commitment. And it's these statements of, NIL deals, email this guy, and my DMs are open for like everyone's making these statements. So if somebody actually did something discreetly, and I don't mean the coaches from Oklahoma State recruiting Vega. I mean,
We already
if
knew
the
that
kid,
happened.
listen, if it did happen, then it happened. big deal, right? But it's not the first time, not the last time. But I'm saying if Vega went discreetly to the coaches at Cornell, which, like, again, I don't know if he did or not. I don't need that detail, but that could very well be the case. I'm trying to play devil's advocate here and say that the kid just didn't do something sneaky and continue to talk to David Taylor and Jimmy Kennedy and those coaches at Oklahoma State. And then he's like, yeah, I'm going to go there. And he calls up Gray and he's like, hey, listen, so tomorrow there's going to be an announcement that I'm switching. I'm not coming to Cornell. Right. Like, that's very well could have been the thing as well, because kids are kids. But like, I'm gonna say that the kid had some morals and it wasn't a shady dealing, and that there was some sort of conversations that went on behind the scenes. We are not privy to every piece of information. As much as we want to be, we're not.
And I think you could take that Yanni tweet kind of on either side of that argument. Like, it came out before the announcement, so he knew ahead of time. So maybe he
Mm-hmm.
did have that conversation. But or it could be that, he's just told you that he's only going to go there, not that he's opening his commitment and thinking about going somewhere else. So I mean, I don't know, it's a sticky situation.
It is. It certainly is. And I don't need to know the true story, but my opinion on it is that kid should be able to go wherever the hell he wants. I hate the fact that people are bouncing around and everything else, but the heavyweight that won the NCAA title last year were multiple singlets before he ended up at Penn State.
Yes, he did.
Minnesota, Ohio State, Oklahoma State. There's pictures of him committing to all three of those schools before going to Penn State and being in their room and doing all of those things. And I love Kirkley. I have nothing against him, but this isn't the first time that this happened. And it's not going to be the last time that it happens. So stop with the pearl clutching, because it happens on a grander scale in most of these other sports. It's just a matter of when it happens in wrestling, it's like, oh shit, I can't believe this happened. And everybody has to play like it's some new thing. It ain't new, guys. It's not new, especially with how we saw a guy not even enter the transfer portal and pop up over here, right? Like, Glazer's at South Dakota State right now. He never entered the transfer portal. He just unenrolled at one place and enrolled in another. The transfer portal is literally just there to let coaches know that you're open for business, is how it was explained to me. So people can go wherever the hell they want. It's going to happen. We do that as adults. Oh, there's a better job over there. I'm going to take that. Happens. So not wanting a indecisive kid with the age of teen at the end of it to know where the hell he's going, it's just insane to me.
This segment brought to you by LinkedIn.
All right.
And speaking of, I will be committing to flow wrestling starting tomorrow.
Have fun.
Kidding.
The other thing that was interesting that we saw today is the trash talk, and it's the same person being trash talked, just with a different culprit, and it's Nick Stemmet trash talking AJ Ferrari and putting a wager out there of you can't use any more emojis and everything else. And it's incredibly funny. It really is.
There was a couple
incredibly funny.
gems in there. It really was.
There really is. Like, it is incredibly funny trash talk. It really is. Some things are a serious jab, right? But like the wager that's on the line of, when I win, you're banned from using emojis for life and you have to change your handle to Mr. Slow Twitch. Like, that's funny, guys. It just is. And AJ responded, and I'm not even going to get into AJ's response because it's not really that
It was
important. But
only emojis.
I mean, there was a lot of emojis, and I think he overdid it on purpose, which I think is absolutely hilarious, and it was clever. And I love the fact that going into this season, there's more trash talk than we've really ever had before. I think it's awesome. I think it's great that guys are trying to be more marketable. And I think that comes with the fact that there are now more opportunities for these guys past college. where it's the UFC or it's Bellator. I mean, it's MMA in general, where you have to be a character. You have to have some sort of marketability. It's the WWE who's already getting in on, NIL recruitment of some of our top guys. I mean, AJ, I believe, was part of it, right? So, we've seen guys be a part of that world. I think this is awesome. And it's even more awesome because it's a way for people to watch. I mean, how many other times did you say, I want to watch the Cal State Bakersfield versus Stanford match? Give us marketability.
I was planning on watching that.
Yeah, but now you're really planning on watching it. So give us the market. And that's nothing against those two teams, but I mean, when's the last time that I can't remember the last time that they met, honestly, because it wasn't anything that resonated really in the wrestling community. Again, nothing against those two teams, but now you're just like, get to 197. I want to see some shit happen, and these guys have obviously wrestled and Ferrari handled business. So that's why it's even funnier that Stemmet's like, you know what? No, last time we wrestled, like I was a child. I'm a man now. I'm 40, right? So let's, I'm trying to keep it in the Oklahoma State path a little bit as much as I can. But like, I think it's amazing. I love the trash talk. I love the fact that AJ, and AJ's not going to back down. He's not. He does not back down from any sort of trash talk ever. So give us the trash talk. Keep it like we said before. Stay in your lane. Don't get too shaky with it. Let's keep some parameters of it, not get too crazy. But I think it's awesome that Stemmet is calling him out. He's the number one ranked guy. You have him the first day of competition. Yeah, let's have some fun with it. What did you guys think
Not
of
really a
the
better
trash
way to
talk?
open the season, than knocking off the number one and starting the hype before you even get there. I think it would be a hell of a win if Stemmet could do it. But we also haven't seen Ferrari in a few years, so we'll see, what shape he's actually in. Could be actually a really good match.
Yeah, I mean, this was more, cheeky and fun trash
Mhm.
talk, which was nice, right? I liked his sword that he had in the picture there. That was pretty cool.
I like the
Holding
do-rag under the cowboy hat. That was my favorite part.
holding the Roadrunner, that was cool. Um,
And
no,
we
that'll be
said
fun,
before
man.
coming on, the fact that was media day was awesome. You could tell that
Yeah.
was media day. It was a white backdrop. It looks like every other picture. That's awesome.
Yeah, no,
Do
I
you
mean,
think
it's going
he
to be
brought the
cool.
Roadrunner, or do you think that Ayers brought it?
I don't know. I don't know. It might
That's
be.
got
I
Hayden Hadley written all over it.
mean, yeah, certainly. I mean, maybe they just like maybe they have props of like all their opponents. Maybe there's like something that they have in their room of like all their opponents or something like that. Who knows? But that was the fact that they staged it on media day. That's good stuff.
Should have beat him with a tree though. That would have been way better than the sword. Really missed an opportunity there.
I
Yeah,
think
and
that
just to kind
sword
of
is,
piggyback off what Robbie was saying too, when's the last time we saw Ferrari on a mat at 197, right? He's a pretty big guy making a big cut, and there's a time for Stemmet to, maybe sneak one out. It's probably the first week of the season where Ferrari isn't in peak shape yet, not really by adjusting the weight. So good timing on his part, but the fact that he almost got tech fall last time after talking trash, it's a weird time to talk crap again, but maybe it works out this time. We'll see.
I mean, it
Now,
was
in
pretty
fairness,
memorable the last time he made 197.
Well, yeah, I guess it was. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. The double
Yeah,
bird. Now he's a
Exactly.
roadrunner. Interesting.
yeah.
the match they had was in 2021. Stemmet has a Stanford degree since then. So, I mean, it's come a little ways. He's
As I
improved
said, he's a
from,
man now. He's 40.
yeah, he's
Hmm.
40. It's not too far off. Not too far off. He had 20 more wins last year than he did in 2021. So, granted, that was a shortened season, but
And he's
Wow.
probably been doing some buys and tries with Sean Gray. So
only buys and tries. That's all we're
only
allowed to
buys
do.
and tries. Actually,
Only
the
buys and tries.
quick Sean Gray story. One of the times that I went to Princeton, I walked in, he's shirtless, weight belt, and just pressing like 285, like it was
That
a
checks out.
toothpick. And I was like,
Does
I
he
was
have
like,
like an
"Yeah,
easy curl bar in his carry on?
probably,
It's one of those foldable
probably.
ones that fits.
That's
Sean Gray is the man. anytime I text him, there's always some shit talk that comes along with it. But no, I think that the shit talk in wrestling, as long as we keep it, keep the guardrails up, don't get too crazy with it. Take some shots, make it marketable. I think guys are happy to play the heel a little bit more these days, and coaches are happy to allow them to be a little bit freer. That is something that I wish I could ask Kale. Maybe next time I'm like at the same place. I think I'm gonna be, yeah, I'll be with him in Nashville. So if I get a chance, I'll ask him about like balancing the personalities on the team. Carter
Does
is
he
a
have a
different
plan to
personality than
balance
the rest of
them?
these guys. He might. He certainly might. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I would love to know, like, especially with a team like that and a person like Kale, of balancing this personality of Carter Sirachi, and not just him, but the other guys on the team, right? Like Aaron Brooks is a very different type of guy than Carter, than Levi Haynes, than Messenbrink. All these guys bring something different to all of it, right? So I would love to know, like, outside of like the wrestling part of it, which they have handled like crazy, the promotion, the marketability, the characters, you know, that's something different, and I don't think that anyone's ever really prepared for that when you're a coach, is just like how things are going to escalate throughout the season. You got to be bobbing and weaving and going with the punches throughout the whole year.
I would like to know what has changed in his outlook over the past decade that allows for someone like Carter to be as free as he is now. Because in years past, it feels like Hale would have put the kibosh on that real quick and kept it buttoned up. But now Carter's out there being a character and talking trash and doing all that. And that's not something we've really seen from Penn State, at least outwardly, since Kale's been there.
Yeah, I was just thinking that maybe it started with Bo Nickel, in that interview, winning big matches and titles, whatever he said, that's what Penn State does. Nickel was a little bit of a talker, but not to the extreme Carter is, obviously. So, maybe Kale saw that as a positive and kind of let the ball roll a little bit. And then you got to Carter where it's like, hey, pump the brakes, man. A little too much sometimes.
I think Bo definitely rubs off on Carter, and Carter has mentioned Bo in other interviews of saying, you know, I want to. Bo is making it look easy over in MMA, beating people up like it looks fun. I want to do something like that. So I think that there's certainly an influence of Bo Nickel being in that room and being around those guys and having the success that he's having post wrestling career, and bringing in different guys into his MMA gym and everything else. So I think there's a new age that has definitely come about, and it's not just about paying athletes. It's personality, it's marketability, and everybody wants a piece of it. Every single person wants that, and I'm here for it. Like I said, let's not go Conor McGregor with it. Let's stay stay in the lane, but yeah, I think it's
Probably
great.
don't do that much coke either. It's probably not good for you.
Yeah, stay away from that.
And
Stay,
Frowned
steroids,
upon.
allegedly.
stay, yeah,
Nah,
stay
nonsense.
away from that. Um, so gentlemen, I want to move on to the wrestling that we've got. And obviously the All-Star Classic is what, 2 weeks after the season truly starts, but we've got what looks like, I mean, we've got a full lineup now. We've got Jory Volk versus Tanner Jordan at 125, Nasir Bailey, Evan Frost at 133, Mendez Bartlett at 41, Van Ness versus Waters at 49, Kasich versus Keller, Garvin versus Hall, Haynes, Welsh, Srirachi, Kekheisen, Little versus Bronigal, Zach Bronigal, and Nick Feldman versus Bastida. Um, Here's my one plug for this. It's call up the Terrapellis at Doc B and find out how you create a card so that this is not just a 125 to 285. Doc B, and I've preached this for a very long time. Doc B does it right with their finals, where they
Mhm.
make the main event the main event. If
Yeah, if
if
Starachi
Carter,
Kekaisen's not the last match, that's
Took the words right out of my
Insane.
mouth. It needs to build. We need to start taking in wrestling in general. And I would love to see them do this in the NCAA tournament. It needs to build. We need to start taking some cues from UFC, from Bellator, from one championship, from PFL. Like they're building, guys. They're building to a main event. That's why they call it the main event. That's why there are posters with the main and the co-main event. It's why we have them. And when we have an all-star match like this, it should build. It should start like it should start with a match that is a great starting point, but ends with the best one. They don't have to be in weight order. Everybody makes weight. We build the card and we go. Make a match order. And the first time that I had seen somebody do that was at Doc B when I was in California all those years. And I was like, this is the best thing. I love this, and being in a boxing family, it's what I grew up with. So that's why I loved it as much as I did, because I'd seen it work. So there's no reason why it shouldn't be pushed over to wrestling. We're seeing it in MMA. We see it in BJJ. Continue to do this. So that is my one wish for this card of let's build to it. Let's have, Bo Bartlett and Jesse Mendez should be second to last, should be the co-main event in my opinion. We need to make this big. Announce a match order. Don't go from lightest to heaviest. Make it work. We can do this. And if you do that, people will want to stick around for all of it. Not to say that, that it's an all-star. People are going to want to see every single match, but like, let's truly build to it. Let's make things really, really cool. Give the main event treatment. Give the co-main event treatment. Just what it is. But overall, I like the card. I think it's a very good card. I'm outside of the 184-pound match. I'm interested in seeing how Van Ness looks at 49, and then also how Haynes looks truly at 74. We obviously saw him in freestyle. I'd like to see him in folk style. What are your guys' thoughts on the card? Was there a match that you wanted to potentially see that they weren't able to get? I'm guessing that they didn't leave any stone unturned in trying to get the best two guys to wrestle in every single one of these weights. What are your guys' thoughts on the All-Star Classic lineup that we have?
I love the small schools. I love that they got a South Dakota State and Wyoming match in there. Obviously, we talked Little Rock and how they're in here. West Virginia's got two guys. Ohio's got a guy. Like, it's awesome to see, not just the usual suspects in an event like this. Giving guys an opportunity. I mean, I had the chance to talk to Mike Poeta last week, and we were talking about, Zach Bronigal getting the chance to wrestle in this, and he's like, this is like it's not a life-changing thing, but it's something he's always going to remember, right? Is having the opportunity to wrestle in the All-Star Classic and to be a part of this event and how special that is. So I love that it's being distributed, amongst some of the non-traditional powers too. But in particular, I'm going to go back to those small schools. The Volk and Jordan match from Volk from Wyoming and Jordan from South Dakota State. They wrestled 3 times last year, and 2 of those times it was 1-point match. I think it was 1-0 Volk at the Big 12s. It was 2-1 Jordan the first time they wrestled last year, and then 4-0 for the 7th and 8th place match at NCAAs. So these guys have experienced wrestling one another. They kind of know what they're good at and what the other one's going to try and do. Tanner Jordan's going to try and ride him out and get turns and that sort of stuff. And, Jory's going to try to be stingy and get some takedowns on his feet. So that one's going to be really exciting. And I'm excited to see those two guys go at it again.
Yeah, I could be mistaken. I don't remember seeing so many Penn State guys in these events too in the last few years. Maybe because it's at Penn State this year, right? They want to probably compete in front of their home crowd, but I feel like that's a newer thing that Penn State guys are doing, is getting involved with these tough matches early on. And just to touch on the markability thing, like Holmes, you hit it on the head, man. It's wrestling doesn't do a good job of marketing the big events and the big names and highlighting some of these events. And why don't they let the fans decide, or let the coaches decide the day of, and you're released a card that morning or the day before, something like that to let us know, like, hey, it's not going to be a normal order. Here's how you vote, or here's what the process is going to be. Tune in 24 hours ahead of time, 12 hours ahead of time to see what that's going to be. And that'll help build excitement too the day of. It's like, oh, this match is going to be second last because of this. And oh, here's the third match. We think it should be towards the end, and I think that could go a long way too with help getting the marketability up, and getting fan involvement, fan interaction too is always good.
Yeah, I mean, if put it this way, if I'm still at Flow, I'm walking in and saying, guys, we should do a preview show, and that preview show should consist of releasing the card, and where we break down every single one of these matchups in the order that they will be wrestled. And then at the end, we put out the full card so everybody can see it. That's how you build. That's how you get people engaged. That's how you continue. I mean, I'll give them their props. They know how to do that, but I would like to see something like that where you've got the ear of the people. You know this. So take advantage of it. Throw another show up there. Have a conversation about these matchups, which I'm sure that they will do, but have a conversation about these matchups. Call it a NWCA All-Star Classic preview show and card release or whatever else, right? Like, do it. That's just, again, how I would go about doing some of these things is breaking down the matches and have a card release. I think that would be awesome.
They've been, they've tried things with All-Star Classics in the past, right? I know they did 3-point takedowns a couple years ago, and so it's not an insane thing to think that they could very easily just kind of make some adjustments and figure it out.
I think that they have had a jumbled card in the past. I'm pretty sure Dake Taylor was last when they wrestled at the All-Star Classic too. So it's not like it's new, but I think last year was it last year? I believe it was wrestled in order. Yeah, it was wrestled in order last year. Hendrickson and Kirkfleet was the last match. So change it up this year.
Especially when you have, such a big possibility for the main event with the only 1 versus 2 matchup.
Mm-hmm.
And that's 1 versus 2 across every ranking from every outlet in the sport. So it's no secret that they're the number 1 and number 2 guy, and it's going to be a battle that needs to be the main event. It needs to be highlighted.
Yeah. And Austin, to your point, it's been at Penn State the last 2 years, and I think that's a nod of getting them.
So many.
Yeah, that's a nod to get them involved as well.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's called what it is. They're a little secretive. You don't get. I mean, I don't even think that they have their roster updated yet for this year. It's put out 7 days before their first competition is, I think.
That'll show them.
Yeah.
So
7 days before NCAA's.
Yeah. So I mean, you don't. I've emailed last year. I didn't even do it this year, but I emailed about just trying to get information, trying to get interviews, stuff like that. I think they have an open period of doing interviews and stuff, but that closes like a month before. So you're not getting anything a month before when you want to do all your preview content. So, but no, I think, like I said, I think it is a nod to get them involved and keep them involved. And I mean, if that's what we have to do to get our highest ranked guys involved in the All-Star Classic again, fine with me. I don't care. Put it there. Give them home mat advantage. I'm fine with it, because you're gonna get one of two things. You're gonna get them involved, but you may also get even better matches, because the guys that are coming in that are visitors, they want to knock these guys off in front of their home crowd. So that should make for even better matches. And the one other thing that I think needs to be said to these guys beforehand is this match doesn't count. It counts, but it doesn't count, right? We know we're going to utilize this match as a measuring stick. We're going to be able to watch these back. We're going to go score points. No one is coming to watch a 1-0 match. 7-6, fine. I'll watch that all day. 5-4, watch that all day. No one wants 1-0. No one wants 2-1. There better be at least 3 points on the board for one of you at the end of this match. That means somebody got a takedown. Somebody did something on their feet. So, guys, let it fly. That is like, I guess those are my NWCA All-Star Classic wishes. Make a card that does not start from light, that does not go heaviest to lightest, and wrestlers let it fly. If we get that, everybody's going to be talking about it for a very long time, and it'll be awesome to see, and the weird part is that these guys are going to come in not with 0-0 records too. So that's going to be very different.
Yeah.
I did like that as the kickoff event, though. I think that was a really fun way to start the year as like a preview event, kind of get everybody invested, ready for the season. And I think that I would prefer to have that because that would be this week, right? It'd be a week before the season starts. So if we had the All-Star Classic this week, I'm not going to complain. So,
well, and it's a good way to ensure everybody's still going to participate, right?
Yep.
My ankle hurts. I don't think I'm going to do this now.
Yeah.
It doesn't even
and
matter.
now you also
it doesn't count.
have to take scheduling into account too, because what if you have a dual scheduled? So it makes it a little more difficult
was
to have it during
originally
the season.
in.
Yeah.
Kirkwood was originally in. Bastida's a replacement. So, there is some of that goes on. But yeah, I wish it was this
dodgeball
week.
injury.
Maybe. Who knows?
Could be.
Tommy John. So we'll see.
Wouldn't be a bitch if that's what brings down the Penn State Empire is like a bunch of
Oh,
Tommy John
man.
surgeries from. That
That'd be something,
would
wouldn't
be
it?
incredible.
What are the odds?
I mean, we used to play handball when I was in high school to warm up. So I always loved the fact that it wasn't a traditional warm up. And I think it's pretty cool that
I'm a
that they
huge
made it,
proponent
so.
of dodgeball. I think it's a fun way to start. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm really looking forward to the Garvin Hall match. I think that's going to be a fun one. Both of those guys can open up, and it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think top to bottom they did a very good job of building the card, and I'm glad that a lot of these guys opted to jump in. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that AJ Ferrari was probably asked and probably didn't want to do it. Just because, I mean, why not? Why would he? Right? Like, unless it was going to be that match with Carter, I don't really see him doing
Or
it.
Nick Stemmet. Maybe we could get a late edition and have him and Stemmet wrestle again.
Get
Be
it?
the rubber
I
match.
mean,
Oh,
right
what
back.
if Stemmet
There you go.
wins? It'll be 1-1.
It would be the rubber match.
Yeah. Oh, here we go.
Let's make it happen. We need an
That'd be a
11th
hell
match.
of a turnaround too.
Late edition. Late add to the card.
They
Yeah.
can use the props as the challenge bricks.
It'll be after
The challenge bricks
Sriracha
would be stuffed emojis,
Mhm.
which actually happened one time. There was, I forget what, I think it might have been the US Open where there were no challenge bricks, so they just went out and got stuffed animals. And
that was fantastic.
I think it was like Angry
I think that's
Birds
what
or
should
something like
always
that.
be used. Yeah, it was Angry Birds.
Mhm.
Those should
Birds.
always be used just to see those get launched across the mat. That was fantastic.
So funny. Somebody I think it
Amazing.
was one of the Brands brothers, just hit a ref like in the head.
That's the funniest
That's
part
not
about
surprising.
it.
Surprised it wasn't
is-
his fist.
You've got Olympians throwing Angry Birds at referees. I need those videos. Where are those at?
What a
Call 'em
time to
up.
be alive.
If you're watching this right now, go search, find those videos of our Olympian coaches throwing Angry Birds for challenge bricks. That's what I need to see. Send it, DM it, put it in the DMs. I need to see these videos and these pictures. But no, gentlemen, this is gonna be great. I love the card that they have. And today was another good conversation with you, gentlemen. Use that term very loosely, but it's what you
Yeah,
are.
looking at you, Austin.
I mean, it's funny. Austin and I are from the exact same place, but he's so well behaved.
Hey Holmes, I got 2 young kids now. I gotta be a good role model, you know.
There you go.
I got 3. What's that say about me?
The
Robbie's like,
odd
never
numbers.
grow up.
It's the odd
Never
number
grow
thing.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you have
Stay
to switch
here.
from man
Stay
to
as
zone.
long as you can.
Amazing, amazing. But yeah, that's it. That's all we got for you crazy wrestling people today. I think we'll be back. We'll do a preview before the November 1st match. So next Monday we'll come back. So next Tuesday or Wednesday will be the posting of that. I'm not sure if I'm doing anything on Wednesday. It is my birthday. I am putting that out there. So
You know.
just so
Everybody
that you
get
know.
home some Angry Birds stuffed animals.
Yeah.
Angry Birds stuffed animals. It's what I want. It's exactly what I need. I'll let my dog rip them apart because that's exactly how fast things last. Toys around her. But
We'll let
no.
AJ Ferrari know he's good at the double Angry Birds
Yeah.
with the splits.
Oh,
Well done.
Jesus.
Well done.
Thank
Very
you.
well done.
That's a
But all
callback.
right. That is a callback. That's how you bring it back around. But gentlemen, as always, I appreciate you. If you're watching this, make sure you like, subscribe, throw those comments in there. Give us your picks for the All-Star Classic, which we'll do much later. And let us know what you think about some of these topics that we covered today. But as always, it's fun, and we'll see you again next time.